Good morning. I just want to test to make sure that my voice is being heard. So if anybody can confirm very quickly that they can hear what I'm saying, then I'm gonna restart the video and go from there. But I'm not sure if my microphone is being picked up properly. Someone needs to just stick into the comments that they can hear me, and I'll restart the video and ask you to come right back to where we are. Can anyone? Yes, you can hear me. Okay, I tell you what, I'm not going to restart it. I'm just going to continue since a number of people have already joined. I don't want to put it. Look, I've been resisting doing this live video for a long time, and I think the recent events, the number of killings and stabbings in London, sort of prompted me to have to say something. I want to pull you guys back to a number of years ago, and as I go on, you'll understand the context of what I'm saying. A number of years ago, I was invited among a number of other groups to a meeting in City Hall in London, right by the Thames, and the meeting was to discuss the rising crime problem in London. At the time, the mayor was one Mr. Boris Johnson. And we were invited to sit down and discuss his proposal to mentor 1,000 black boys. Let me be crystal clear. The reason for this proposal was because everybody who knew anything about what was going on in London could see that the environment that had been created in London was creating a vibe among the young people, and we knew where it was going. So we were all invited down to this meeting, massive room at the top of City Hall. I would say probably 95% black men who I recognized, black men who I knew, because quite frankly, we had all been involved at one level or the other in the community. We didn't know the ins and outs of the proposal, so we sat and we listened to what the mayor's office was proposing. The instant and first reaction by the men in the room was quite simply that we wanted nothing to do with any proposal by Boris Johnson or by the administration, because every single one of us could relay anecdotes of being betrayed by government organizations, particularly when it came to do with our young people. And people felt that working with them would be useless, they would betray us, it would never come to pass. I stood up in that meeting and I said to the people gathered that if we do not cooperate with Boris Johnson and take this proposal to the limits, we, the black men, specifically in that room, would be called to account if we failed to make that program work. The gentlemen in the room applauded, and we agreed to work forward and get it done. History documents that mentoring program never happened. And here's why it never happened. Because some of you don't know, and some of you think, especially us black men, have been sitting idly by. What happened was this: 1.3 million pounds were allotted for a mentoring program to mentor 1,000 black boys. Consortiums were invited to bid to deliver that program. The theory was very simple. If we could mentor 1,000 black boys, then we had a chance to see to it that a much more young lives would be affected. It has been my experience working with my colleague Tony Harrison that we have gone into programs, 20 boys have turned up on the first day, and then bring them brethren. And so we end up with 40 boys at the end of the session, 20 who are paid for by local government, the other 20 who are just their friends. So we felt that if we had 1,000 boys, we had a good chance of affecting change in London. Remember, the reason for this program was because all the signs and signals were that the crime was about to go through the roof. We put together a consortium. Our consortium felt that we had the very, very best bid. A number of people involved in our consortium are guys who don't need to do this. But they looked at the figures and they said, look, the money that we will get in terms of payment is minimal, but the return that we will get from saving our community from this upsurge in crime, which we know will then be blamed not just on black people, but on black fathers specifically, it's worth doing. We put together our consortium, we reached out and we found an A-class, top-rated, and I'll say their name, group Barnardos to head up our consortium. So what we had was the best of both worlds. We had an established, solid, financially viable organization in the name of Barnardos, and we had the ground roots organizations who have already been working successfully. And we felt that, hey, we're confident. At the end of the day, we make this happen. We'd save lives. When the bids were announced, the winners were announced, we lost. I'll be straight. We could not believe that we had lost. Not out of arrogance, but out of the simple fact that we have been doing this work for so long. We knew every single consortium in there, and we knew what it would take to deliver the mentoring and working with 1,000 young black boys. And we knew that we alone could deliver it. And I know some of you are saying, oh yeah, that's Paul being arrogant again. Just wait. Your turn will come. We requested a freedom of information to see the scoring, to make sure that we had lost fair and square. It turns out that we had won. When the freedom of information request was returned, our consortium had scored the most points by far. To us, that made sense. What didn't make sense was that the contract was awarded not to the second place, but to the third place consortium. Third place. Now, history documents that what happened next is what stopped the program from being delivered, and what I believe is a precursor to what we're seeing on the streets right now. And what happened was this. They awarded it to the third place group, and on the very day of the award, major players in that consortium collapsed. By the end of the first week, our consortium was being approached to work as subcontractors on the same process. Needless to say, we refused. And we refused for a multitude of reasons. The primary reason why we refused was because if we were to accept it, that would mean that we were accepting of the deceit and the robbery. And I'll tell you this, just in case you're sitting there wondering, well, why is it that they skipped over the first two? And I will say it is cronyism. And to the black men who are listening to this, who were a part of that, and to the black men who subsequently made a decision to try and prop up that deceitful act, which of course, as is inevitable, ended in failure, I say shame on you. And why am I so angry and upset this morning? I'm angry and upset because fast forward to 2018, and I see the Daily Mail printing articles supporting this claim that somehow Sadiq Khan must reverse the seed that has been planted so many years ago. You were warned, you were told that the environment created by old governments was creating an underclass of youth, black and white, who would not put up with the same rubbish that their parents put up with. You were warned, you were told. So when Sadiq Khan tells you it will take 10 years, I'm going to say this to you. He is being moderate with his estimates. And the shameless attack on him today in the Daily Mail, because he made an actually factual statement, is the racism that the Daily Mail has always put out against brown and black people. And let me be crystal clear. I'm no fan of Sadiq Khan. I don't see him as an uplifting, great, visionary politician. I'm from Jamaica. I grew up with Michael Manley, Edward Seaga. Those are the sort of politicians that I see and aspire to. But the reality of the matter is Sadiq Khan's hands are tied. His hands are tied. And if we continue to support the foolishness that these authorities put out in our name, claiming that the streets can be cleared up, instantly, and the streets can be done, and it's Sadiq Khan's responsibility. Let's be realistic. The police lack numbers. The police have said so. Every independent group have said so. And yet you ridicule when Sadiq Khan says so? Let me tell you something. Stop and search is a valid weapon, but it is ineffective. Stop and search is ineffective. Why? Because at the end of the day, it is not being practiced properly. The police have a difficult job, but the police also include people who have a racial problem. And so as a consequence, they go out, they harass young black kids, boys and girls, and the result is the community resents them and we don't work with them. Our young kids are doing what they're doing not just because they're genetically bad. They're doing this because at the end of the day, they are growing up in an environment of despair. They are growing up in an environment where 54% of black graduates from universities, black male graduates, are unemployed. Do we understand this? Are we getting this? And until we start to understand that there are environmental causes to this, we're going to sit down posting from the Daily Mail, which is just blaming us, and we're not getting it. I live down in Croydon, and when I listen to a police officer tell me point blank that there are nights when he takes young black boys into jail, not because they've committed any crime, but because when he takes them to their house, they have no electricity and no gas, and he can't leave them there. You know what my mind asks me? My mind asks me, so when a drug dealer says to that young man, here is £100, take this parcel around the corner, and then you can go put some light on your mom's meter, I'm asking you, what do you think he's going to do? What do you think that kid's going to do? Look, if we don't give these children choices, they will take what they have. Yesterday, and it made news yesterday, there was a 9-year-old little girl who wrote into a charity asking them for a job because even though she don't believe in Santa Claus, her 2 siblings do, and her dad has just been made redundant, can't get his universal credit, and her mom died. I don't know what kind of heart some of you listening may have, but from my point of view, this is supposed to be the UK. You guys have robbed enough for you to be walking around calling yourself one of the richest countries in the world, and you have 9-year-olds writing into charities to ask for jobs? Add 5 years to her age. Bring her into London. And when Mr. Drug Dealer says, I know Christmas is coming, here's 50 quid, take this parcel around the road, you tell me what you think she's going to do. And you guys get off your moral high horses. Just because you've never faced those choices doesn't mean you have the right to judge our young kids. Our role is not to judge them. Our role is to provide them with choices. And we are not doing that. We are not doing that. Every single charity that I know of in London working at the grassroots is at capacity. We are at capacity. We have parents coming through the woodwork. And the only thing we can't get you to get off Facebook and come and help us in our programs. And you then turn around and say, oh, you know, Paul, yeah, it's great what you guys are doing. I had one guy on my trend saying to me, you know, what are you guys doing about mental health? And I'm saying, well, what do you mean what we're doing about mental health? And he said, no, don't you guys have a program about mental health? The only thing he never said was, let me join you with a program about mental health. My point is very simple. And I'm sorry if I'm a little bit irritated or irritated. See, this is why I write. Because when I write, I have time to double check it. And you know, I can go over it 100 times. But I'm speaking that I can't control how I feel about seeing grown adults criticizing the wrong people. Grown adults criticizing our children. And when I say to them, what are you doing next week, Saturday morning? They've always got a comment about what they can't do. The measuring stick which I use to decide whether someone is involved in their community is my own personal measuring stick. This is not about my child. This is about the child who might stab my child. This is about the child who's sitting down beside your child who might stab your child. This is about the child who sits beside your child who will say to you, look, let's not go to school today. You think Sadiq Khan can control that? You think the police can control that? Let me tell you something. If tomorrow every single young person carrying a knife stopped and nothing else changed, within a week, we would be right back here. The seeds were planted a decade ago. We were warned. No one paid attention. We waited until now we blame someone else. The people to blame are the parents, the government, me, and you. I know what you're sitting there saying. Some of you are sitting there saying, oh, well, you know, my kid doesn't do that. Your responsibility doesn't end with your child. Until you get that message and you understand it, your responsibility does not end with your child. I'm trying to be as crystal clear as possible. We cannot sit down and wait on government. The government has their own agenda. Let's cut through all the faff. The reality of the matter is, Sadiq Khan is a Labour mayor. The government is a Conservative government. It is in their vested interest for him to fail. Let's just be crystal clear about it. It is in their interest for him to fail. He's up for re-election soon. London is the jewel which the Conservatives have never been able to capture. No matter how you want to think about it, Boris Johnson was a disaster for London. They know it. I know it. And I'm gathering a lot of you know it too. We need to put aside our political things and start to look at the reality. The reality is the police are underfunded. We don't cooperate with the police either. Yeah, I get it. I know why. But at some point, we have to realize that it's not the police kids who are getting killed, it's our kids. And when something like that happens, we can't turn to the man them and say, sort this out. We end up having to report it back to the police, and we end up having to set up foundations, set up this because our kids are killed. So we need to get it into our heads now that we need to start cooperating with the police. But we need to do it under terms which work for our community and for the police. One more thing I want to touch on, just in case you're not so sure how insidious this thing runs. In October, we had this big blow up about the sociology book on the AQA. And we had that, and that happened over a weekend, and they banned one book, and we felt, it's all peace, it's all good. Ladies and gentlemen, you need to understand that the environment I'm talking about is not just the lack of jobs for our young graduates. It's not just the racism our young graduates face when they go for interviews. It's not just the fact that they're excluded more than anybody else for the same crime. It's not just they're punished more severely in the courts for the same crime. It's that the education system is pumping into their heads inadequacy. They are being told that they're not good enough. They are being told that they are the problem. And guess what? It's not just them that are being told that. The white kids, the Asian kids are being told that black people are the problem. That black people are dysfunctional. And the AQA stamp approved on a book, and doubtlessly other books that say exactly the same, and they take no responsibility. None. As far as they're concerned, and they have said this in writing, they don't take responsibility for what's written in their books. Yet it is these very same books that set the tone of education in this country, that inform the thought patterns of social workers, solicitors, judges, the police. Is it any wonder that policemen see us and view us the way they do? Is it any wonder that social workers see us and view us the way they do? The Macpherson report coined the phrase institutional racism. I think we need to upgrade that to national racism. We live in an environment, like it or loathe it, that has racism at its core. I'll reference to you the Grenfell fire thing, where the bottom line is the majority of people who died in that were brown people. And we won't even go into why the government's inaction allowed that to happen. We'll fast forward to last 2 days ago, where a group of white men from South London were burning an effigy of that building. And you know what? They're going to get away with it. And the reason why I know they're going to get away with it is because of the comments I have seen coming out from this society saying they have a right. I heard one guy on the radio saying, why didn't Theresa May speak out when Muslims were burning poppies? I've read comment after comment justifying their behavior, calling it drunken modes. We better wake up, because if we don't wake up to what's going on and to how our society is being treated, this is going to continue forever. Like I said to you, 10 years ago, Boris Johnson took the decision to rob this society, London, of a mentoring program which, by all designs, would have worked. It never happened. And what we're reaping now is the whirlwind. And it gets under my skin to see people blaming black fathers, blaming Sadiq Khan, blaming everybody, when we have a bed, a rotting bed, and we're asking our children to grow up in this rotting bed, black and white children. And we don't know why the children are out there. They're out there because what's in there is worse. What's in their homes is worse. That's why they're out there behaving the way they're behaving. That's why they have no respect for us, because as a generation, we have failed them. We failed to stand up for them. And I don't care who don't like it. I am tired of the backpacking and the well done, no, this is great and this is a great. Join us. I'm going to reach out to a sister who I know who has a list of organizations who are begging for help. And I'll post it underneath this trend. And I want you to share this. I'll post a few things on it and I want you to read them and share them and understand. I don't do this because I want to. And I'm going to tell you something else. I don't even do this because I need to. My one boy, at 24, and he has not brought a day shame to me. I've probably done more shame to him. We need to fix this. And we fix it, the first step is by stop propagating the racist system that is around us. We need to stop supporting it. We need to stop pointing at each other and start pointing at them. Parents, we need to buck up our ideas. If you can't manage, find somebody to help you. If you live next door to a skettle, you go help her. If your brethren is a waste man, take him aside and say, brethren, you can't roll so. That's it. I'm sorry to be so wound up, but the last few days, I had a lady crying on the phone yesterday to me. Crying because of what she's seen, what she's witnessing. She don't even live in London. We have to do better. I would say I'm late for work, but I'm not. But I've got to go now. I just feel like my head's going to explode. We've got to do better. And I hope that it starts now. I hope that we start to think about the environment that our children are growing up in and what we can do to change it. I ain't going to no more seminars. I ain't going to no more workshops. We need to change this. And we change it by acting as a unit. Guys, you guys try to have a good day. Stay safe. Call out for your children. Call out for your neighbor's children. Call out for that kid down the road that you cross over when you see them coming. Thank you.